Coming up on Unpacked, are you saying that working for someone means you're going to be restricted with the amount of money you make?
It's okay to say, let me try something else.
My intention was that I want to be wealthy. I want to take my mom out of a shed.
When you start a business, the challenges evolve as the business evolves.
Entrepreneurship is not only about business and making money. There's an untold story, and both of our guests today are here to tell us all about it. Let's unpack. We have all heard the saying, fortune favors the brave, and tonight's guests are the epitome of just that. Coming from an impoverished background and having no shoes inspired Lekau Sehoana to create his own sneaker line. His brand of shoes has disrupted the fashion industry and become one of the trendiest shoes on the market. Mathapelo Pitsie is the owner of a luxury women's footwear brand founded in 2017. With 13 years experience in corporate and retail, her story is that of perseverance, having established successful businesses in the food and beverage industry and now in fashion. As a believer in being socially responsible, she has built a business that gives back to those in need. These are their stories. Let's unpack. Mathapelo, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm so happy you are here. Lekau, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So both of you are in the shoe game, and it's so interesting that obviously while we're speaking about entrepreneurship, there will be very unique experiences that the both of you have had just because it's particularly dealing with shoes. But let's start with you, Mathapelo. Take me back to you growing up as a child. What was your upbringing like?
So I'm originally from East Rand, Katlehong, and I'm an only child. And my parents are married. And, growing up, I was a shy child. I was very reserved, but I was a creative child. And I always knew that I'd go into entrepreneurship, but, I never knew what exactly I wanted to do. So I would always, design stuff, draw stuff, and I had pretty much a happy childhood, being raised by two parents who are working, who are always there.
What is that feeling when you say, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur? Because it's not often you meet a young child who says, when I grow up, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
That it stemmed from my father. So my father, nile motho wa di-piece job. So una bereka mola le mola, and then he would have like a full-time job, and then the job would end. But growing up, my parents always told me, you need to have something that's your own. Do not ever rely on other people. And, you have to I think either o tla gola o be le supermarket or o be le butchery. So we always grew up around that way. You know what? Be an entrepreneur more than having to work for someone. Yes. And I always had that mindset that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never really knew exactly what I wanted to do. And initially, when I came into my high school years, then I was like, okay, I want to open a restaurant. I thought I was going to be a restaurateur until I tried it, and I was like, no.
Not for me. What about you? What was your upbringing like?
Very bad. Yeah, so I'm from Limpopo, Hamamabolo. And Kamushat. Yeah, so my parents divorced when I was 2 in 1990, and my mom moved to Joburg, moved to Alexandra in 1990. And then, it was hard in Alexandra. Then she moved to Ivory Park, and staying in a shack with my 4 siblings. She was doing odd jobs. Sometimes, there was nothing to eat. And that was my upbringing, So I grew up in a situation whereby I was forced not to work, for someone else, because it's either I work and I can only provide for my mom and not for me, or I provide for me and not for my mom. So that is why at an early age, I was like, I have to be an entrepreneur. So, yeah.
But explain to me, and especially for those that are watching at home, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that working for someone means you're going to be restricted with the amount of money you make? Is that what you mean? Or are you saying if I work, it literally can only provide for one? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, as a child, because that was the life that I was exposed to. So I was only exposed to people who were working as waiters, cleaners, and I knew from when I was about 15 that I can't provide for my mom and myself at the same time, because we're living in a tiny shack in an informal settlement. It's either I was going to get a bond house and give my mom, or get my mom a house, and I have to stay with her, So I knew there and then that I had to do something very big. I had to be an entrepreneur, So even when I made my first shoe in 2003, my intention was that I want to be wealthy. I want to take my mom out of a shack.
So at the time, what was the family structure? Because you keep speaking about wena le mama. Where was everybody else?
At home, I have two brothers, two older brothers, and my little sister as well. Yeah, so my mom was just doing odd jobs, good kitchening as a domestic worker here and there. Sometimes, msebenzi wafela. So yeah, that was my setup at home.
And you're speaking a lot about taking on this responsibility ya go tlhokomela mama. Is it because baba na le siko?
Yeah. Okay. It's more about him not being there, at all, even when they actually divorced. So I think I've met my dad 3 to 4 times, So when I made my first shoe, I was like, actually, I can do this as a business, So I learned how to make a business plan at the age of 15, because I wanted to actually take over. I wanted to be able to take my mom out of that informal settlement. So yeah, it has been like that, yeah.
So you spoke about thinking that you're going to open a restaurant one day.
Yeah.
Ne? So where did that dream begin of wanting, because that was now your entrepreneurship answer at the time?
Yes. So my mother, when growing up, my father was always away, a driver. So he'd always be away. So I'd always be left with my mom, and my mom raised me in terms of being there full time. And later on, when I grew, she kind of started working, but she'd always cook all the time, and she taught me to cook. I think by 8, I was like, kitchen in the a full meal Sunday, 7 course. And from there, I thought to myself, well, I can cook. My mom likes to cook. I love food. I'm definitely going to be a restaurateur, because I want to open a restaurant. And that's what I love to do. And because I loved to cook, you know, spending time with my mother. So then eventually when I grew, I tapped into that market. And my first rodeo in business, was having a catering company where we used to cook, and then would go to the cookout, and then you'd serve your food. But then at the time, I was working a full-time job, and then every Friday, pizza, and then I'm like 24 hours, and then Saturday now I have to go sell. But then I realized that was not my passion, that's not my love. After 3 months, I was like, no, this is too much for me.
So for the person watching who wants to know, what was the sign that it's not for you? Because you know how we always hear people say, persevere, keep going. What was the thing that was like, do not keep going, stop?
I always say, when you find your passion, regardless of the challenges that you go through, every morning you need to wake up and still enjoy something. And also you still need to feel like, you still have to have that vision of, I'm going to make it work. It's going to, it's going to be something bigger. And for me, I realized like every weekend the first 2 weekends, I was like, okay, I'm excited. But then had weekend until I was like, no, man. Like, I really do not like coming back on a Friday, get already pizza. And then I also tried to have other people to help me, but I still didn't like the feeling I was getting. And the business was doing good. It was not even doing bad. It was doing really good. People loved the concept that I brought kokasi and would have the cookouts. And then I was like, but at the end of the day, I'm not happy. I don't like waking up. And even when I looked at the vision further, if I'm already complaining now, when it's like such a minute scale, what more can a restaurant do? It's like a 24-hour day. You have to be there and making sure. And that's when I was like, I still want to be an entrepreneur, but that was not my space. And it's okay to say, let me try something else.
So it's not because you were really tired because you had a long week.
No.
I mean, that could have been a consideration that maybe you just needed sleep.
No, because sometimes, ungadi off. You know,
Yes.
how bereka, like maybe you'd say like, okay, your leave days,
Yeah.
you get 2 weeks off. And I still have the whole week, and sometimes I'd have like a whole week where it's not like I'm tired.
Yes, I got you.
And I can still go back and cook. But why is it, haki pekela ko kaya di pizza ka Friday, kontlung, I'm happy, ke happy.
Yeah, but that, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, am I
Yeah,
really doing
yeah,
this again?
yeah.
So eventually that's when I realized that was it for me. But it was not the end of my journey, though.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you say you did your first business plan at 15. Many 15-year-olds are nowhere near that type of thinking. What drove you to be in the space outside of what you've already told us? But what is the thing that took you to, okay, it needs to be a business plan, and what was the business plan for?
At 15, I was now doing grade 8, you know, I was now in the big school. And that is when I actually realized that we were poor. You know, that is when I realized that I was actually different. You know, other kids were wearing, you know, labels and branded clothes. And I was like, okay, probably maybe I have to do something. So I started reading magazines. I wanted to go to fashion schools. And yeah, that is what drove me into that corner, because I couldn't even do what other teenagers were doing. I couldn't date because of class. When I was so called out, I can't date you. So it just put me in a corner whereby I was just now forced to do research, you know, forced to just read the Forbes magazines, entrepreneurial magazines back then, you know. So yeah, that aligned me into being the person that I am today then.
But the idea that, okay, so you're saying magazines, what is the thing that got you to start writing a business plan?
What got me to start writing is when at school they asked us to come wearing our home clothes.
Yes.
And then I didn't have anything to wear. So I went home because my grandmother taught me how to sew, and I started sewing my clothes, you know, using denim. And one of the special things that I did was a sneaker as well. You know, I took an all-tone sneaker, redesigned it using denim, and I went to school. And because I was one of those kids, you know, we didn't have money. So teachers were like, these are cool. You should actually just come and patch my jeans, you know, other students as well. So I started, you know, getting money from all these things, you know, sewing clothes and sneakers as well. So I was like, actually, I can turn this into a business because I've been reading these magazines. So I started, you know, trying to get into, you know, retail, you know, back in the day, but I was still a kid. But actually worked for me for my high school career, you know, because I was just reading business books. I was just making business plans, trying to build a business. I had a logo, I had a name. I registered a business back then. So, yeah.
So your first business that you had actually done in high school, because you're now making money, right? Did it evolve to become your current business, or did you have to fail a few times before you got to your current business?
Yeah, I went through failure a lot, you know. So in high school, that was fun. But I came to know that actually retail is going to take time, you know. So I failed my matric, and I had to go back again in 2008 and rewrite my 2 subjects.
Did you fail because of your business?
Yeah, I failed because of a lot of things that were happening. Because now I was getting much more older. You know, I was much more conscious about my surroundings, the poverty. You know, there was just too much, and I failed the 2 subjects, maths and computer studies. But I had to go back and then and rewrite. Passed. But now my friends were already gone. They were now in university. So I was like, getting a job, no, I'm not gonna do that. So I started a cleaning services company. So I've been, you know, doing business ever since then. Probably about 5 businesses that failed, you know, dismally so, you know. So yeah, I've been through a lot in terms of failure.
What do you mean by failure? Because failure can look like many things.
Not getting clients, you know, because sometime 2013, I actually just went back to school, studied civil engineering at an FET college. So later on, I was able to just, you know, fund my businesses later on in life. They also failed. So I lost money, you know, I had cash for scraps. I had a poultry business, you know, they failed. You know, because of operations, you know, I couldn't run them. I didn't have much knowledge, but I'm more passionate about entrepreneurship. So, yeah, so my failure sparks because of different things, you know, operations, funding, you know, lack of time, not paying attention, lack of passion. So, yeah.
So, and the last one you said about lack of passion, I think probably speaks similarly to your catering business.
Yeah.
What was the next business you ventured into? Because you said, this is not for me. And what happens when you're done with a business, but it's doing well? Do you sell it, or do you just stop answering people's calls? You change your number.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy. No, so with me, with that business, I realized like it was not for me. I sold it off to a friend of mine, and the value that I sold it was like how much I'd invested into it and how much it would make. I sold it off, and with them, unfortunately, they couldn't bring
Keep
it
up.
up as
Yeah.
well. And I think also a lot of the times people go into entrepreneurship not because of something they love, they just want to make quick money.
Yeah.
So also that plays a role of where you want to be. So after that, I then was like, okay, I think I want to go into the fashion industry. And that's where now my journey starts. And initially I was like, okay, actually, I don't know. At that time, I was in a trend of like, no, I'm going to design bikinis and swimwear. Swimwear. And before we even got to where I am now with this business, that was supposed to be a bikini brand. And then I realized, hey, no, I don't know anything about drawing, the sizes that have to come with. And my brand actually changed names 3 times before we actually got to where it was.
Yeah.
And we moved from, bikinis, and I was like, okay, no, I actually want to open an Insta store. I'm going to do fashion. I'm going to sell clothing. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never really had a direction. That as well didn't work out until my passion, I would say, found me. And then the brand where I've built it now to be. And then I went into footwear. And footwear was not something I dreamt of ever.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never even in my life thought I would be a footwear designer. I would, be making shoes for women at all.
How did that transition happen?
So what happened is it actually happened accidental.
I love it when people get successful and rich and they're like, by mistake. Everyone's like, I'm trying to do it on purpose, but I keep failing. Like, it's so unfair.
But I think you need to open your heart because obviously I've done it. We've all failed. I mean, we went from catering and then it was like bikinis were not working. Then it was like Instagram store clothing was not working. And how it happened for me was that being a woman, I like to buy a lot of clothes, a lot of shoes, a lot of bags. But and now you have to clean it up. And I remember this one time, and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. And I remember this one time, my mother, it was that time of the year, and we were basically taking out clothes to give away. And we actually counted, I had about 300 pairs of shoes.
Wow.
Like, and my mom was like, I was like, no, I don't know. And anyways, I'm also one person that used to love ordering online. And that's when I had my aha moment. Because I was like, wait a minute. Half of the time, my friends, colleagues, people that see me, they like the shoes that I wear. And they'll always ask me, oh, where did you buy this? And I just redirect them to wherever I purchased the shoe. And for me, it was like, wait a minute. So my passion, I love shoes. And I know where to get good shoes. Why then don't I then stop redirecting all of those people and then be the one that sells the shoes? But then at the time, I didn't think about the design aspect of it. That was not even, it was far from my mind. So I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, let me actually go into the shoe business, but I will resell someone else's brand.
Yes.
So basically I'll collect, and that's where my Star Box, that's what we were known as before we went to be Amour right now.
Yeah.
That's where the brand started, with selling one shoe at a time. I would basically, and I think I was quite fortunate that there was one particular lady in China that I used to order all my shoes from, as a client. And I said to her, I'm like, you know what, can I, order, like, can I resell your shoes in South Africa to the consumers that I have? But I can only afford to buy like one shoe at a time. What I did was, if a shoe was like 500 Rand, I know I go to my consumer, get a 1,002.
Yes.
So then, obviously now at this time, your consumer doesn't trust. So I'll be like, okay, please give me deposit. Deposit it cover the incoming,
cost of the shoe.
The shoe and the shipment. And I'd order the shoe and then it will come and then I would send it to consumer pays. And that's where it started. And most of the time people think that when we start brands, like a stock or something, and then it started literally ordering one shoe.
Yeah. And that's a very important thing to say, because perception is such an interesting thing. There are many brands, especially in the fashion space, who are like, they only work to order, because it's not feasible if you don't have this massive amount of capital to be sitting with stock. And I think it's an important lesson on just start with what you have. What about on your side then? So you failed a couple of times, a whole lot of times. And then what was the start of this journey?
when I was in construction, now I was working and I was just frustrated, working for someone. And I was like, why don't I just go back into fashion, into my passion? I wanted to do formal men's shoes like loafers. That is when I started. I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to go into loafers, be a gentleman. But I'm not that guy. I was like, I like Kanye West. I listen to Jay-Z. How am I going to tap into that gentleman club type of thing?
Yes.
So I was like, okay, let me just now, check what I can do. I was like, okay, sneakers. Let me just check sneakers. So I started following Kanye West around how he actually built his business, Phil Knights with Nike as well, So, yeah, that is how it actually started. Then I started like, okay, fine, let me just try to create a sneaker, the most comfortable sneaker, because South Africans walk a lot.
Yes,
so I started searching for factories. I went through a lot of them up until I found one. They were like, okay, cool, we can actually just listen to you.
Yes.
And they started helping me with the designs and everything.
Wow.
And then giving me 26 prototypes. I was way too happy with that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, what am I going to name you?
Yeah.
And then I started going around with names, asking friends what's up. And they were like, no, call it Azania, or call it that, those African names.
Yes.
And I was like, Drip. At that time,
Simple.
at that time, Drip was trending on social media. I was like, okay, big corporate companies come and then they commercialize these cool names that we come up with on social media. So let me use this one. Let me trademark this one and brand it. And then they're not going to even have to think about hospitals when they think of Drip. They want to think of the shoe and the brand and a South African story.
Yeah.
So I took that and then I started going on social media, cleaned my social media, deleted every old thing.
Wow.
I was like, now I'm rebranding myself.
Yes.
And the minimum order quantity of my sneakers were 600 pairs. I didn't have that, And then I went online and I was like, guys, my name is Lekau Sehoana. This is how I grew up. I didn't have sneakers. I just shared my story. And it blew. People were like, okay, my guy, so how do we buy the sneakers? I was like, I don't have the sneakers. I don't have. And then I wait a minute. Now I'm doing interviews. I'm on newspapers. Like, actually, maybe I should do an online store.
So you created a demand prior to actually having the supply.
Yes.
That's very smart. Yeah.
And I didn't know that I was actually doing that, because I just had this passion. I guess I was just itching. I guess
another one mistake was like,
And then I called a friend of mine, Tabang, was like, Tabang, can you please help me with the online stores? Like, if you can just give me 2 pairs for my girlfriend, and then we're all good. I was like, perfect. So we created the online store. And then one beautiful thing that we did was to create a pre-order.
Yes.
So we did pre-order and the sneakers were actually sold out. Pairs and everything. I took the money, I paid the factory, I got my sneakers and I distributed. Now I had more sneakers. So December 2019, and then I now made 1,200 pairs. Made my first million in 2019 December. But then at that moment, I didn't just want to be that black guy who has money, who's just building, who is just a cash flow that is coming in, buying cars, alcohol and girls. I was like, I just want to build a brand. I want to build a corporate structure, systems that can, inspire the next black person, So that is how I actually, had that mentality of just building a brand and a South African story, So yeah, from there and then everything just went up.
So let's move away from the beautiful successes because obviously we are summarizing the highlights. Talk to me about the lowlights. What was for you, particularly in this business, which is now doing well, what is some of the hardest moments that people will never know about because you don't post it online and that are directly related to you because your business is a lot of you?
As I always say, people always ask us like, oh, what are the challenges a business goes through? When you start a business, the challenges evolve as the business evolves. And, I was looking at my story, like the first time when I was starting this business, it was lack of funding, right? And also character-wise, you have to learn to be resourceful. If you're not a resourceful individual to be an entrepreneur, you're not gonna make it. You need to be able to be someone that is innovative and resourceful. And my challenges was that I was still working. I was fortunate that I was still working at a full-time job. I can still sustain myself. But then at the same time, when you're working a full-time job and you're trying to grow a business, you don't have the time or luxury now to grow this brand. So into summer slow. One moment it's high, one moment it's low. And also now it's like we want to scale the business. Now you've found a proven kind of like an idea that you can see, but now you want to scale it. And I remember my first challenge was that I wanted to scale. And I remember I approached a friend of mine to lend me money, and I borrowed like 70,000 rand. 70,000 rand.
You have nice friends.
And guys, and people don't understand at the time. Number one, when I'm going to my friend, I don't even know much about a business plan.
Wow.
Okay, I was quite fortunate that she had the capacity to do that, and she was the person I could identify to assist me with. And when I approached her, I didn't just approach her with like, okay, yeah, kupa unkadime 70,000 more, and then get this talk. I literally had to have, I actually planned it out. I was like, okay, I don't know how to do a formal business plan, but how about I do my business plan as a form of a presentation? I literally designed the box of my shoe, how it was going to look, and I even had a mock-up of the shoe and the concept and everything. And I went to her and I even delivered to her as like my first consumer to say, this is a concept, and I had written my little story, what I wanted, and she borrowed me the money.
Yeah.
But now, when she borrows me the money, I was happy. Can I 70,000? I'm like, okay, great, get a stock. I get a stock, and my manufacturers are overseas. That's the one thing. So I get a stock. I didn't do my research a while that I needed to have an import and export license. So stoko safita, kinkile 70,000. I bought stoko. Stoko safita. But now the thing is, you need an import license to be able to get that in. Mathapelo, Dololo license. Now they put fees to kind of confiscate the things, and you have to release the package. But I don't have the amount of money that they wanted. I think they wanted like 30,000 or something.
Wow.
That I need to pay. And I only managed to get a portion of the stock when it arrived. The rest of it I couldn't. So now here I am, Kikolata, somebody 70,000 rand. I got partial of my stock. Inali interest is 70,000 rand. And the first kind of like business lesson I had to learn was like, I need to pay back that money that I've borrowed. You know, just like how a consumer comes and buys. And I literally ended up having to pay that money out of my own pocket every month until Kifeleleta that loan. And it was like, okay, the business again is not selling that well. I'm not sure how to promote my business. I'm not even sure about my brand identity. And those are the things that I had to learn along the way. And that really works on your mental, you know, on your mental stability, because now you told the world, especially when you're an entrepreneur, bright-eyed, pushy-tail, you come out, you're like, I'm going to be successful. This is my brand, and then now what you're building is not matching what you're making.
The reality is hitting.
The reality that is hitting. Your sales are not coming through. You're starting to wonder, do we really want to do this? And now you're going back to that mindset. How do you know this is where you're supposed to?
Should I just quit now?
Yeah, should I just quit?
Yeah.
I just had like another business where I was with it and I ended it. I didn't like it. And you know, you people are always asking, how's your business going? And you're working a full-time job, you can't even concentrate on the business. And there's many challenges that you go through, but you have to be strong about it. So I've gone through, trying to fund it, going through mental issues.
What are the mental issues so that people understand the type of sacrifice you're talking about? Because people will always think your capital contribution to your business is money and time, not realizing sometimes your spend is your health and sometimes your spend is your mental health.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's your mental health. And, one of the things that I don't really talk about, and I'm glad that you asked about it, like with me particular, I have ADHD, I am depressive, I have bipolar, I have like anxiety. And I have to have a solid, support structure in order to make sure that to keep me well. And it's okay, every business goes like with lows and it has its highs. But, a lot of people tend to think that if you have those, you can never
have a business.
You can never have a business because now you're flip-flopping, you're all over the world, you're all over with your emotions.
Yeah.
But also when you hit rock bottom, not every day is like a happy day you have to wake up. Some days it's so bad that you're like, oh my God, how do I sort out a problem, And you just need to stay focused on, on your vision. And a lot of times I've seen people as well, we like to compare ourselves to our counterparts, or to other people in the same business, because it's like, oh, someone has made a certain amount of money within 2 months. Why am I not making that 2 months? And that also contributes to your mental health.
And to you, Lekau, I mean, what are some of the worst moments that have happened in your business journey?
Cash flow, and distribution, so being able to actually build the structure of the business, we need to have more money, and being able to feed the demand that's there, So that has been one of our challenges. That is why most of the times we actually went back into the funding moment of the business, whereby we just open those pre-orders, then we raise more money, and then we produce, and then we distribute. And then also lockdown, so the first 21 days of lockdown were actually hard, because we didn't work, we had office, couldn't pay employees as well. But it turned out to be very good, because we focus more online. We're on social media, everywhere. We're working with Twitter guys that we're just promoting the business as well. So yeah, for us was just more of that financially, and just being not working during that time of 21 days of lockdown. Yeah.
So something that many business owners don't talk about, and I'm always curious, is how has success been difficult? Because success can also be hard. Have you ever experienced something like that?
For me, it's more of when I started, I'm more of an introvert.
Yes.
I'm always minding my business, and now it has changed. Now, social media, every half day you're getting a message or bombarded with messages from people saying, oh, can you help me with money, about those people you don't know, or it's, can you be my mentor? And for me, it was a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah.
Because I was just living my life, and next thing now you're getting this because people are seeing what the brand that you're building. So for me, I think the challenges was kind of like understanding that, and with the heart that I have, I want to help everyone. But now you kind of start realizing like, wait, you can't really help everyone, and people want you to behave in a certain way. They want you to, speak a certain way. And sometimes, I've had issues where, you get so much messages and you can't respond to all of them.
Yeah.
And then some people become very mean to you, to be like, now you've made it. How's I respond? I got you messaging. And then you're like, not because I don't want to. I'm chasing the day. I don't have enough hours to do that. So for me, it's been the cultural shock of moving from how I lived or who I was to now there's just this amount of attention that I was never ever used to.
Yeah. What about for you? How has success been difficult outside of, the demand being higher than the supply available?
I grew up poor. I grew up in poverty. So I'm cruising right now.
Yeah.
I'm cruising, so whatever attention that I get right now, I'm able to just make phone calls and say, let us go to my township and then just help with soup. Let us go and buy school shoes, So I'm using every little thing, every little attention that I'm getting. And so I was able to buy my mom a house, I'm able to help my family with each and everything that they need. So I'm just cruising right now. I'm just able to just use whatever negativity, and I don't even focus on that, So if something is negative, I just move away. So I'm just focusing on the positive and just building my brand. Yeah.
So where are you now with you personally in relation to your business and your business?
Well, right now we are still growing. We are fourth most in e-commerce store.
Nice.
So that's how we basically build ourselves. And, we've started our small distribution through other retail stores in terms of our brand, and, getting the brand out there, getting people to understand that we can compete within, international standards for our products. So yeah, that's currently where we are now. We're still growing. And, I always tell people that Rome was never built in one night, and people tend to want to rush their growth. And, this is the time that you need to enjoy, and we are taking it slowly. We are getting to know ourselves. I'm getting to know myself as a businesswoman, and yeah, that's basically me.
What about you?
We are building the business. We have over 80 employees. We have a beautiful office in Centurion. And then we are also building studios, a design area. We hired someone that is designing sneakers in-house, working on the brand positioning. We signed a deal with Caspanio Vest. that is worth 100 million, So we are doing well right now. We just want to get the brand out there, create employment. I always use the hashtag jobs will be created, with 74% of young people being unemployed, that is where I just want to position the business and say, if you can't employ you, at least just do something with your life, So just want to use a trip as a vehicle that is a positive, to young people. So yeah, we are creating jobs, we are opening stores, we are working with brands out there just to align with what we have right now. So yeah, we are doing pretty well.
Final word for the viewers that are watching that might be inspired by something that you shared in your story.
Yeah. My best advice, I always tell someone, just start. Even if you don't have a proper plan, you don't have the means, but just start. Once you start, you'll learn along the way. And, even if your dream is that big, try to find ways to scale it down to be like small, to start small, but just start. Once you start, it's easy to ride. It's like riding. It's like riding a horse. You just ride it into the sunset. Yeah.
And your side?
Money follows passion. Just stick to something that you're passionate about. Just grow it. I've went through, failure before. So when you fail, something, don't give up. Just continue. I met a guy back in the day when I was still doing poultry. He had a chicken grill on the street. He was making over 50 to 60,000 rands a month. That is not a cool business to do. So we just have to go back to basics and just check around our communities what is that we can do, and then just to bring bread home. So yeah, and also money follows passion all the time.
Money follows passion all the time, and start where you are with what you have. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lekau. Thank you so much, Mathapelo, for coming to talk to us. I think the reality is we don't talk often enough about the personal struggles that come with being an entrepreneur. And in the case of the both of you, you're both successful entrepreneurs, of which Rona, as South Africans, we are extremely proud when we see Hore. You guys are the champions of employment at the moment. We can't rely on our public space to be serving. We have to rely on each other to be providing the job. So, Relebogile, thank you for coming to share your stories.
Thank you so much.
Hashtag Unpacked with Relebogile. Do get in touch with us and do engage with us, especially on the socials. Let us know what you think about our guest tonight. And maybe you've got your own entrepreneurship story or personal struggle that you'd like to share and engage on. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night. Next time on Unpacked, it's almost like you are less of a man if there's no children, right?
We are the ones that saying, when are we seeing grandchildren? We're waiting for grandchildren.
Being married doesn't mean that automatically you will have kids.
When did you actually realize that you have fertility issues? Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Television edited broadcasts weekdays at 5 p.m. Open up to S3.